Wonderful. Well, so excited to see you all again. My name is Mary from Master Connection Associates, and today we are going to be talking about prospecting essentials. And this is the topic that particularly I get very, very excited about talking about. As Kate had said, since we are a smaller group, there may be some times that, there will be some times I may just call on some people directly to share some of their thoughts on their markets or challenges that they're facing as it relates to prospecting. So I always like to say, don't be alarmed if we just call on you directly, because sometimes in this platform, that's just easier. If you do it anytime, I do encourage your participation. I always like to say, be proud out loud. So if you do have a question or a challenge or something that you'd like to bring up, you can, go ahead and use the reactions and go ahead and raise your hand, or please feel free to utilize the chat box, and then we can go ahead and get you unmuted to go ahead and share what are some of your thoughts or challenges as it relates to new business development. And right now, when we look at new business development, and as we kind of are ending the year, to me, there's never been a better time to really be focused on new business development and how we actually are prospecting in today's world. Right now, too, with around the world, doesn't matter where you are, the economy is a little tricky right now. There are talks of, do we go in a recession? Are we in a recession? We know there's a political environment that's kind of going on right now. And all of that affects business. And one thing that I always like to say is that whether we're going into a recession or had a recession, we do know, and if you're reading anything, that's what's happening, is that the talks of all that economic uncertainty sometimes makes people a little hesitant to actually buy in the future. The other thing that we know is that because of the inflation, the budgets for everything have to increase for 2024. I just read an article that most meeting planners from 2023 to 2024 are expecting that their budget for their meetings is going to increase about 20 to 25%, which is actually like amazing for us. However, there's still going to be a lot of pushback on price because the price of everything has actually increased. So this is why when we look at new business development, it is such a critical part of the sales process today. And if you look at yourself as a salesperson, we know that one of the reasons that we pay salespeople is not just to bring in the revenue and bring in the money that naturally comes to us, but is to go out and find that higher rated business or business that actually isn't really looking at us. That's really what a salesperson is supposed to do. The other thing, if you're reading anything about trends for 2024, we know that so many meeting planners have now said that post-pandemic, we really, in the next 6 months, want to prioritize rebuilding our relationships with all of our vendors. And rebuilding these relationships is so critical because what some of those planners have actually felt over the past couple of years is that we've kind of fallen a little bit into a transactional mindset because we've just been so busy. So we aren't really focused on picking up the phone and getting to know our planner. We're really just, if an RFP is coming through, sending over meeting specs, and planners now are really demanding more. So when you think about having a clear intention, there's never been a better time to think about what are the things that I personally do very, very well as it relates to new business development. And then also, what are the things that I personally need to get a little bit better at? And one thing I like to say is, well, let me just kind of see those of you that are on camera, or you can even give like a thumbs up. How many of you love to prospect? Just raise your hand. You love to prospect. Okay, there's not. Okay, I'm looking around. Okay, Sarah. Oh, I love it, Sarah. Be proud about that, you and your partner. Okay, so there was just a few hands, not a lot. So I always like to say, if you don't love to prospect today, it's not like poof, after this webinar, you're going to love to prospect. But the idea is to get very comfortable constantly reaching out to people and doing it in a way that is very compelling. And that's what we're going to talk about. Because even when you look at the key to success, everybody is going after the same business. So we do want to think about what is that right business for your destination and for your conference center, but also thinking about how do you differentiate yourselves as sellers. And I can give a couple of examples. When I do one-on-one coaching with salespeople, with some of your competitors, and even with some salespeople from IAC themselves, a lot of times what most people do is they just go back through their old list and go, okay, this person booked us in the past, or this company or organization, and we simply just send an email. I know you've booked us in the past, or maybe you booked a competitor in the past. So do you have a need now? That's a great strategy, but we do want to think about how, back to building the relationship. How do we build a relationship that's more than just, I know you booked us in the past, do you want to book us now? And so really, when we think about that, that means we have to be more focused on the other person, on their company, on the organization, on what the purpose of the meeting is, and really be repositioning our outreach a little bit differently. So when we think about all of that, new business development is one of the most critical parts of the sales process. And so when you think about new business development, I always like to say you got to think about, what are you currently doing to increase your visibility? So this would be going to trade shows. We know IMEX just happened last week, going to trade shows, going to networking events, but it's also even your social media presence, being very active on LinkedIn and posting and thinking about, how am I networking? I like to say online as well as in person. And then you have to be thinking about, what are the compelling reasons anyone would want to actually talk with me? Like, what do I do differently personally? What does my conference center or venue have that is different than the competition? And what are those compelling reasons? So as I said, I may ask, so we're going to kind of get some of you talking and unmuting, just so then that way we can kind of address some of these challenges. But in the chat box, and as you're kind of typing this in, I may call on somebody. Just in the chat box right now, I just want you to go ahead and type in, what are some of the challenges that you are facing when it comes to prospecting? And what I'm going to do is maybe just call on, well, how about I just go ahead and call on, there's a couple Sarahs, but the Sarah Leopold, you're just the first person on my screen. So do you mind unmuting and sharing what are some of your challenges as some of the others type into the chat box?
Yeah, I think my biggest challenge is just time and finding the time. I don't hate prospecting. It's really, again, just finding the time to put everything else aside, kind of ignore, for, if you will, for a moment, to ignore everything that's coming in, to be able to do that.
I think that's very valid. How many of you, and you can raise your hand too, you would say time is probably the number one of your challenges? I see a couple people. And one thing too, and just to kind of address that, we can talk about that, is it is just being very committed to that time of, as you said, as everything's kind of coming in, how do we just really stop and focus on 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour of that new business development? And I do like to say, if you're going to trade shows, if you're going to networking events, you're probably spending more time than you think on new business development than maybe you're actually giving yourself credit to. Thank you so much, Sarah. There's multiple Sarahs on, for sharing. And so I love what Kathy, you said, the biggest challenge is no responses from clients and companies. One thing that we know is when we go back to the basics, with somebody that does not know you at all, meaning even if they booked you in the past, but the individual doesn't know you, if the client has turned over, on average, depending on what study you read, it can take 18 to 23 tries to connect with somebody that doesn't know you at all. And this is where I like to say, you just have to keep emailing and calling and sending LinkedIn messages, all of these things. And we always say that until somebody says, never ever call me again, I'm going to call the police, you just keep calling. However, when I'm following up, one thing that's really important is that I am coming up with different compelling openings. When I'm following up, I can't just say hi, it's me again. I do need to look back at the company, read what's happening, if they've won any awards or what is going on with the association, so that my outreach is very, very personalized. So that's important. Now, with a client that actually knows you, typically that would be about 6 to 7 times to touch that prospect before they're going to talk to you. However, that can actually be even more. In my own research, when I'm prospecting, I say with like somebody that knows me from the past, those old clients, it takes about 11 tries to get them to talk to me. So that's kind of important. And that goes back to Sarah, what you said about getting through the gatekeeper. Sometimes we just have to keep calling and emailing and messaging at the right time. Now, Gail said getting the timing right, having the message land at the right time of the buyer. So there's even strategies with this. So there's a statistic out there. I'd have to actually pull up the actual statistic, but if you're not in the first 10 to 20 emails within somebody's inbox, the chances of you getting read or paid more attention to go less and less and less. So it's recommended when you're sending an email, for example, that you send an email the last 5 minutes of the hour or the first 5 minutes of an hour, because that's typically when meetings begin. So I'm in Pacific time right now. Our meetings from 8 to 9. If you're emailing me at 8:55 a.m. to 9:05, you're going to be at the top of my inbox, which is making you more likely to be read. There's also strategies that emailing during lunch is a good time, or calling during lunch, because typically then that gatekeeper or person answering the phone is at lunch and the client's actually not at lunch. And then also, I think I read recently 4 to 5 p.m. 4 to 5 p.m. on Wednesdays is one of the best times to actually be reaching people. So I'd encourage you to start to think about, for your market, when is the best time to actually be reaching individuals. And then Sue, I love the compelling subject line. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So when it comes to time, it is recommended that you're spending about 1/3 of your time as a salesperson on new business development. If you look at all the AI technology that's out there, and I encourage you to look at ChatGPT and how it can help you save time and all those kind of resources. But I just read yesterday that AI technology for salespeople is estimated that is going to help save salespeople about 10 to 15% of their time, just by utilizing some of these AI resources that are out there, which means that as a salesperson, you could spend 10% more of your time on building those relationships on new business development. And I always like to say, as I said earlier, if 30 minutes a day works, that's great. If it's sending 3 emails or 3 proactive touch points a day, I'd set some really good goals for yourself and be thinking about, how many proactive touch points do I personally need to make every single week in order to be successful in my market? And normally as a salesperson, we want you to be thinking about, what are those need times? What are those need periods? And how do we actually fill those, which takes time. Another 1/3 of your time we would recommend is spending on handling your existing accounts or business, or then on your administrative duties. And depending on how your staffing levels are, those staffing levels would be important, because you can't spend as much time on proactive business development if also we're not fully staffed in our sales office. Now, you can prospect. Let's talk about a little bit about key account management and prospecting within 3 different types of accounts. And when you think about prospecting within 3 different types of accounts, it is recommended that you don't just prospect from your existing clients that love you or old clients, but also those new clients. So you want to create a list. And if you're not prospecting at all, if time really is a problem, I would recommend that you maybe pick 10 new from existing customers, trying to book new business from your existing clients. And typically we would define these accounts as your 20%, your key accounts, 20% of your accounts that are bringing you 80% of your business. So you're thinking about, how do I penetrate these accounts? Either get more of their meetings and events, more of their any type of travel, I like to say, or we're also trying to think about other divisions within the company or organization that we can actually capture. Or, so let me just go back real quick. So that's our new from existing. Then we have new from old. So this would be new business from your old customers. So I'd be encouraging you to go back a couple of years. What is it a couple of years, you can go back to 2019 levels and start to go, okay, who was utilizing us in the past that isn't necessarily utilizing us now? And then we have new business from completely new business. So this would be the key accounts of your competitors. It would be new companies or organizations that you're going, okay, I want to go ahead and prospect from this, and really being a little bit more focused on who are those 10 customers that are potentially do have business for my market that I want to actually go after. And typically those are the hardest to make inroads to. And a lot of times, hardest to make inroads to is because those are the ones that it takes a lot more touch points to get in contact. So one thing when we talk about reaching out to customers, we like to say, like, you can't wait for people to actually call us. As many of you said, that the time is obviously getting the right message, getting past the gatekeeper. So many people are working remote. And I do agree with you. More people are working remote, definitely. But a lot of times it's hard to connect with those individuals because it's not easy to connect with your clients or people when they didn't call you first. When they're actually calling us, it's easy to create a connection, right? And it's easy to kind of facilitate that relationship because they already have an interest, they already have a need. And one of the reasons is because 60% of the sales process that somebody is sourcing us has already begun before you're ever involved. The client has done their research, they've done their homework, they've actually decided they want to reach out to you to see if there is availability. So it's a little bit easier to connect. But when it comes to prospecting, and even when the lead comes in, a lot of those clients aren't necessarily ready to buy. But now is the time to really cement your loyalty because people do appreciate your guidance there. So I mentioned the new from old, which is very, very important. So you want to create a list of those 10 new from old customers, anybody that may be inactive in our CRM, those dead accounts, those lost business, and then be thinking about those new from new. And with new from new, these would include those referrals. So hold yourself accountable to asking for referrals. We know that 90% of customers that do like you are willing to give a referral, but yet only 10% of salespeople out there ask for referrals. So at the end of a program or after you've closed a piece of business, you do want to say, who else do you know that does have a meeting, an event, a need for this area or this location? And then back to those referrals. I get referrals from individuals like yourself all the time for our company for sales training. And even with referrals, when it comes to people that they know, it still sometimes takes 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times of following up with them in order to be successful. So let me go ahead and just in the chat box, just to hear a little bit more about your markets, is what are some of the markets that are doing well, or the markets or clients, you can even mention specific clients that are doing well that you would like to target in the future or are targeting right now. So you can go ahead and type some of those in. And what I'm going to do is, Gail, why don't we have you unmute because you're just second on my screen, and share well, first just share your location so everybody knows, and then what markets are doing well for you or that you would like to target in the future.
Hi, yes. So we're in the UK, we're Warwick Conferences, part of the University of Warwick. My colleagues are on too, Sarah and Chris. Yeah, the markets that are doing well for us, or we see an opportunity, should I add, one of them is healthcare and pharma. So we don't naturally get a lot of that business, but we've done some research and there's no reason why we shouldn't. So that's a particular market we're concentrating on. And we're also concentrating on trying to bring back some association business because we had quite a lot of it before lockdown, and then that's gone right off the boil for obvious reasons. So we've just got to get back in and understand the pattern to that business because it all changed over lockdown.
Yes. And I think back to that association business is a lot of associations, because of that lockdown, they lost a lot of their members. So it's how do we create events that are fun and unique and exciting, even though maybe there's some issues there. So thank you, Gail, for sharing. I appreciate it. Healthcare, pharma. I see Sue also agrees with association business, religious, manufacturing, financial, social. Let's go ahead and let's hear Chris. Let's go ahead. We'll hear from you. Why don't you share some of your accounts or markets that you're prospecting?
I'm prospecting pharma and healthcare, definitely. That's one we're concentrating on at the moment. But the ones that I think are doing reasonably well at the moment are finance and professional services. We've got a lot coming in, mostly through third-party agents, but we're seeing big events coming in via those sectors.
Right. And that's good because we know then finance, it's like it's finally kind of back and going, which is always very quite good, right? Perfect. Let's go ahead and hear then from one more person. Kathy, how about we go ahead and hear from you?
Hi there. We are in Colorado, and surprisingly, we are getting a little of everything. I mean, association, pharma, corporate meetings, really just everything. But there are certain areas that we are trying to get back into. Pre-COVID, Chicago, Illinois was one of our biggest clients, and we haven't had any sort of Chicago business since 2019. So there's certain markets that we're trying to get back in.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. So let's then go ahead. Now that we kind of know some of these markets, we're going to kind of dive into, well, how do we actually prospect these markets? So one thing that's important to remember is that the competition is fierce. You know, everybody, it's like profiling your best customers is very important. But the first things first is that you actually have to plan out what is that prospecting time. So there are 3 steps in the sales process that are involved with it for new business development. We're really going to walk through just step 1 and step 2 today. And then step 3, we're just kind of briefly going to mention here. But when you look at these 3 steps, you know, the first step is the research phase. So in that research phase, you're creating a list of what I like to say are suspects, people who we think have business for us, or really creating your list there. And then you're doing research on those customers so that when you reach out, you do have something that's interesting or compelling to say to that individual. So hopefully then when you reach out to get to that initial sales call or the probing process where you can properly qualify and understand if there is actually a need and a partnership that can be created. So in that research phase, you always want to make sure that you're researching these prospects before contacting them and thinking about the specific, I like to say, company or organization, and looking at their website, looking at what might be a little bit different for them, looking at what are they posting on their LinkedIn profile, telling us a little bit more about what their company or organization does, what are some of their key values. So that way, when you do get to that step 2, you're not just saying, well, like, hi, my name is Mary, and I just want to know if you had any future business for meetings or events. It's really sometimes thinking about creating a need behind a meeting or a celebration or a merger or acquisition there. So let me just go ahead and you can type back into the chat box. Where do you go, or what are the top places you go to find prospects or do research on prospects? And perhaps this time, Sue Bellin, why don't we have you go ahead and unmute for us just so we can hear from you, and the rest of you can type in.
Sure, absolutely. So the one of the major sources is we subscribe to Nolan Group. It's a reader board service, so we get quite a bit from our comp set there. Websites, searches, especially for associations, some social, religious groups, just talk in the industry from newspaper articles, things like that.
Perfect. No, those are all good resources. Sarah, I see that you wrote LinkedIn. How are you utilizing LinkedIn in order to do some research? And I think it's just the Sarah that just has one Sarah in the black. Is that what you did?
Hi, Sarah. Hello. I am doing exactly what you said. I'm engaging. I'm trying to follow. I'm trying to, just link in with those companies and learn intel on them before I'm going out to prospecting. So it is about engagement and trying to find, that sort of that need that they want, whether, like you say, celebration or with future conferences. So engaging with them on LinkedIn before I'm going after them. But we also have Sales Navigator as well, which links in with LinkedIn.
Right. No, I love that. I loved LinkedIn Sales Navigator myself. So perfect. Thank you for sharing. So what I wanted to do is just kind of show you, I'm going to stop sharing my screen just for a couple of minutes and just show you a couple other resources that you can utilize to prospect for future business. And I'll just go ahead and pull this up real quickly here. And so the first website that I'm going to show you, just to kind of give you some more ideas here. The first website I'm going to show you, so this is our website, which is Master Connection Associates, or masterconnection.com. If you go to the top of our website, there is a link here that says free resources. And underneath these free resources, it says technology tips for prospecting. If you click on this, there's going to be a little overview on prospecting right here. And then down below, based off of market segment, there is going to be places that you can actually utilize some online research. And I just pulled up a couple of things. I tried to kind of, now that I have some of your accounts, I may show a couple of different things that you can go ahead and use. But this is a great resource where you go, okay, well, let me go ahead. You can go to this website and broken down by market segment, it's all there. So what I want to do is just kind of show you a couple of websites very quickly, just so that way when you're doing your prospecting, you can go ahead and just look at some of these websites and really start to think about, okay, what are some lists that I can actually start to create or research that I can do on these companies and organizations. Would somebody too, or a couple of you, also right now, just in the chat box, type in a specific customer that you are looking to prospect. And you can go ahead and type that in, and then we can utilize that as a kind of test here. If you want to type in, if it's, some of you mentioned pharmaceutical. So if there's a specific pharmaceutical brand or pharmaceutical organization or even association or finance, go ahead and type that in, and then we can go ahead and utilize some of those. Perfect. Mayo Clinic, Pfizer, always the big ones, right? So the first website, just talking about pharma, is I would encourage you, just to either research prospects or even look at anything for Pfizer or Mayo Clinic, is worldpharmanews.com. This will give you all the pharmaceutical news that's happening around the world. So it's not just UK specific or America specific. And I'd encourage you, and there's different ways that you can type in here too, of searching for things like Pfizer or even Mayo Clinic would be in here. So here, for example, I'm doing this live, and here we got something for Pfizer right now. Pfizer announced the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved whatever that is. The first and only, vaccine that provides coverage against the most common serogroups causing some disease in adolescents. So if I was actually prospecting Pfizer, I would copy and paste this article. This was just from 3 days ago. And I just say to my Pfizer contact, congratulations. I saw that this drug just got approved. Let me go and ask you, where do you plan to train your salespeople to be selling this new drug? Like, where are you going to do the training? So I think our venue or our conference center would be a great fit. So I'm utilizing whatever's in these articles as a reason to create a need for a meeting or an event. What I'd also encourage you to do for all of your bigger clients then, or for all of your clients, is to create a Google alert. So if you just go to google.com/alert, for all of your key accounts and key prospects, I would always recommend that you create a Google alert. So you are alerted. What a Google alert is every single time this company, organization, set of words is in the news, you will get an alert about that. So this is so funny because Mayo Clinic, a doctor was just accused of poisoning his wife. That is like so fun. So that probably is going to be a hot topic that we're going to leave aside because we're doing this live. But here's some things where we can maybe look at some other things. Well, this is all now about this poison by the doctors, the recent news. So we got to find something that's not about, Here we go. Mayo Clinic performs first robot-assisted kidney transplant. So I would be reaching out and going, again, congratulations. I just saw that you have your first robot-assisted kidney transplant. That's so exciting. Let me just go and ask you, are you doing any other meetings that are going to be focused on robot technology in the future? You know, and then I may talk a little bit about the technology in your conference center and how we're tech forward if those are things that they're actually talking about. So obviously the poisoning of the doctor's wife, not going to be something you're going to utilize, but also just something that you're kind of paying attention to there. Another great website. Anybody have heard of 10times.com, 10times.com? A couple of you. So this is a great website. You know, Noland is wonderful because it'll give you things in the past. This will give you things in the past, and then it will also give you things in the future. So for example, let's just say if we wanted to do, let's just do banking and finance events. I can go ahead and browse this by category, do banking and finance. And then let's just go ahead and I'll just put in Chicago, just so we're searching in Chicago, even though we want to steal this business, let's say from Chicago, but since it was a city that was mentioned. And then here's going to come up all the banking and finance events that are in Chicago. When you actually click on these, and let's just go ahead, this Midwest ACG Capital, this will give you a good overview of what the event is. This is a registration website that is utilized by conference planners. The first thing that you can see is that the estimated turnout is 100 to 500 delegates. So depending on the size of your venue, you can go ahead and go, okay, is this a good fit to try to steal within my city or market? You can also connect to the website as well as the contacts here. I'm not going to click on it because then you have to log in, and I do have a login, but then I get a ton of emails about going to this. But another great way I like to utilize this is like, now I've just identified a banking and finance event, but then I have this ACG that has 61 total events. So if I click on, oh, I should be able to click on that. Let's just see here. I should be able, let me just go down. I don't know why this is not working right now. But you can click on this ACG and then look at those 61 total events. And then you may go, okay, this is just a prospect, this ACG. We know that they're planning events that I can actually prospect. Another way that you could do this, if I'm just going to go back to then the main page here, is if I go back to the main page, and then I can go ahead and also just go to the top and look at venues specifically. And I can click on all venues. And sometimes the venues, let's say, I will tell you, they don't always work perfectly. I will just say that. But let's just say you want to look at, well, let's just do Chicago again. Here's then going to come up all of the venues that are in Chicago. Now you might go, okay, this Hilton Chicago, or maybe this Hyatt Regency Chicago is in my market, or is in, here's the Sheraton that we were just looking at. I'll just kind of click on that again for fun. Then I can see that they've hosted 255 events. So I'd encourage you to try to find some of your competitors on here. And then I can see all the events that are on this website that are up and coming. Those of you that are prospecting association, a lot of associations are going to be listed on here rather than private companies. So already you can see the Healthcare Business Women's Association, the Turnaround Management Association, and these are all happening at this venue. So when you type in the competitor in there, sometimes their name doesn't come right up. I'd recommend you go to the venue, you try, or the location, then try to find it from there, because that just typically works a little bit better. Other kind of fun things to do within Google, and I'll just kind of show a couple things based off of what you said, is even if you take competitors, and what I actually did is, because I didn't know of any of your competitors, because I didn't get to talk to any of you prior, and I just used Kathy, I just put in Cheyenne Mountain Resort's telephone number. So what you can do is I put in meetings plus events. I use the year of 2023. And then I use the plus sign and I put in the telephone number of the hotel. So when you put in the telephone number of the hotel, we know that most registration websites are always going to have the telephone number of the hotel connected to it. So if you Google a telephone number of a competitor, and then this would be for group business, and you put in meetings plus events plus the year, you may put in 2024, and then the telephone number, up what is going to come up is some registration websites that are attached to this telephone number. So now I know that, the Colorado Nurses Association went to that hotel, which was Kathy's, who she represents. I can see that there is the National Coal Transportation Association. I can see some CSG West has actually utilized you, school executives. So that's just another way to kind of look at what is going to the competitors in the future, rather than kind of what's in the past there. It's a very fun tool, and Sarah's like loving it, right? The last thing I'll show, and then if anybody has any questions after, you can always reach out, or I can show, I'll probably show one more thing, is if you can't find people's telephone numbers, or not telephone number, emails, if you're having a hard time connecting with email, hunter.io, this is a website. I'm underneath a free plan. You do have to create an account. But what you could do is, and let me just let me just go back. Why don't we just put in Pfizer again? Pfizer. Now, Pfizer is going to come up with a lot of results. And what it will do is, if you look on, and you can get 25 free searches a month, which I think is plenty. Oh, good. I see somebody says, I love hunter.io. It will give them the email pattern, their most common email pattern. So in this case, it's first.last@pfizer.com. Now, with a large organization like Pfizer, there may be some people that have similar names, but then you can see here are individuals' names that are in their system. A lot of the sources, I like to say, they're anybody that's in PR, anybody that's in, I like to say anybody that's in PR, anybody that's in marketing, though that would be who those people actually are. And then just kind of even looking, if we just stick with Pfizer, my other fun thing to do to just find something compelling to say is, just when you click on their website, I mean, first of all, hope changes lives. So we can utilize some of their things here that said, we're relentless pursuit of scientific breakthroughs and revolutionary medicines that will create a healthier world for everyone. So if I was actually prospecting Pfizer, I would be reaching out and saying, dear so-and-so, I saw on your website that you are in a relentless pursuit of scientific breakthroughs and really want to create a healthier world for everyone. I've loved the opportunity to share with you some of the things that we do to create more health and wellness within meetings, from food and beverage to the lighting to our mini pods that we're doing. And is there a good time to talk? That's probably going to separate you just right there from all the rest of the other individuals. But then I like to see about, like, what are they posting on LinkedIn? What are they posting on Facebook? What are they posting on their social media platforms? Because those then can also be really, really great talking points. So if I look at, I'm going to click on this football story because I'm kind of into football. Oh, they have a paid partnership here. This is a paid partnership, so I don't know if I want to use a paid partnership. Let's use whatever this person said. So here's something with, skin doctors. When it comes to managing eczema, it's important to consult your doctor. Here we go. She explains and tells her own patients and explains how you can collaborate with your doctor on your care decisions. So again, you may actually screenshot this and utilize this as your opening to say, I just saw your whole Pfizer on your eczema patients and really how you like to personalize your care to your patients and collaborate with your doctor. I'd love to go and share about how we do meetings and events and how we take a personalized approach and really like to collaborate with our customers. So just kind of utilizing some of the information that they're either posting or looking at, talking about their mission can also help be some of those talking points there. So in addition to that, typically what they're posting on LinkedIn is different. So you can be looking at what they're posting on LinkedIn and utilizing that for some of their talking points. So those are, if you have any other resources or have any other questions, even after the session, you go, how would I actually be prospecting let's say, a certain market segment or person, please feel free to reach out. Kate has all my information and I can put my information at the bottom. So then if you need more ideas of where to do some research, we can go ahead and give those to you. So after you do that research, the second step is then to actually be reaching out to these individuals. And our goal is in the second step is to create a compelling message and really be focused on what we can do with them. We would recommend that in this outreach phase that you don't start selling. What you want to do is pique their interest and then typically ask for a phone appointment. And personalization is key because people can tell when you just copy and paste. So you don't necessarily just want to copy and paste the same message of, I see that you went to XYZ, like in Noland. As I said, I see that you went to this venue in the past. Do you have a need now? I want to go onto their website, just as I did with Pfizer, try to find something on their LinkedIn profile, try to find something that elevates myself more than just like, I know you went here in the past. Really the key too, when you first start sending these messages, is to think about these 5 hooks. So we would always recommend what makes you compelling is these 5 hooks. And when you reach out is to state one of these 5 hooks. And then after stating these 5 hooks, request that phone appointment. So knowledge of the organization. This was the example that I just gave with Pfizer. It's saying the thing about eczema. It's saying the thing on their website. You're trying to revolutionize a healthier lifestyle. Let me go and tell you some of the things that we have done for meetings and events that promote a healthy lifestyle, such as our menus, our lighting, our wellness rooms, whatever it is that we offer. So that's knowledge of the organization. Then you have knowledge of the person. I was just working with a salesperson yesterday that was prospecting a meeting planner from Helms Briscoe. And we looked that individual up on LinkedIn, and she posted a lot actually on LinkedIn. And in one of her posts, she had talked about how she created a personalized makeup bag at a recent event and how much she loved that makeup bag and was utilizing it during her travels. So if I was actually prospecting that person, I would be saying, whether it's on LinkedIn or in a voice message, whatever platform we're using, I would be saying, dear so-and-so, I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you were just at an event where you created a personalized makeup bag and how you were so impressed with that personalized activity. I'd love to go ahead and learn a little bit more about what you are seeing in terms of trending for personalized amenities and activities during 3-day conferences. And I'd love to share some of the ideas that we're doing at our conference center to personalize amenities and activities. Is there a good time to talk? That just right there is a great compelling opening. Then we have knowledge of the industry. So if you are reaching out to meeting planners, right now there's so many things that are being put out on trends for 2024. If you are prospecting pharma or finance, I need to know what's trending within pharma or finance. So I may have some sort of knowledge of the industry where I'm saying, I just read this article about a competitor. I just read this trend in terms of a meeting or event. What are you seeing for 2024? What are some of your things that your clients are actually asking for in terms of personalization? Another great compelling hook when you're reaching out is then a new offering. So this would be a new package, a new promotion, a new menu, new furniture, new decor that you have. There's always kind of something new. Or if you're actually new to your venue, to your hotel, to your conference center, you're reaching out as a new person and introducing yourself. And then obviously we already talked about a referral, because the easiest way to get a referral is to ask for one, but then you're basically saying, I got your name and number from Kathy. She thought it'd be a great idea to connect. When is there a good time to talk? So when you're initially outreaching, we're going to talk just a little bit about emails in general. We like to say you want to follow with emails, and we'll talk a little bit about other ways of reaching out. The ABC rule. So the A is you're grabbing their attention. The B is you want to be very focused on what you can do for them. We don't want a data dump or feature dump. And then we always want a call to action. So really the whole key here is, and we'll talk about that this would be for emails, but also for voicemails, is with the voicemails, you do want to make sure that with visual voicemail today, like if you have the new iPhone, anybody have the new iPhone, or I just went from the 10 to the 15. that if I ignore a message when I'm on a call, it is scribing the voicemail live to me. It like blows my mind. I don't know if anybody has experienced that. It's crazy. So I was on a call yesterday. I deleted it and it's like, "Hi, Mary, this is the doctor calling." And my heart is like pounding, but I could read everything that they're actually saying here. So because of that, being compelling in a voicemail today is even more important. What we would recommend is that you state your compelling opening and then you introduce yourself. Because sometimes, especially if the person doesn't know you, if the person doesn't know you and you say, "Hi, my name is Mary and I'm calling from," I'm going to use myself, Master Connection Associates. "My telephone number is," people already go, "Okay, it's spam," or "I don't want to talk to you." Rather than stating the compelling opening and then going and introducing yourself. So I'll use an example of a voicemail I left like a week ago, where I was prospecting somebody in training and development, learning and development. And on their LinkedIn profile, they said that they were a very highly organized and efficient person. So when I left the voice message and I got her direct line, the individual's direct line, I said her name was Kathy, and just like our Kathy here. I said, "Hi, Kathy. I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you really are a highly organized and efficient person, and that you really pride yourself in creating custom designed training and development. My name is Mary Hanna, and I'm calling from Master Connection Associates, a sales training organization. And I'd love to talk to you about how we can make your sales training more organized and more efficient. Would love to talk to you," and left my telephone number. So it's stating the compelling opening, then introducing yourself, because by the time you actually state that, your name, people are like, "I actually don't even know who you are." So with the perfect email, and I have some email samples that we're going to show here. Typically, too, with your emails, you want to follow, just like those voicemails, the KISS principle, keeping it short and simple. If you send very long prospecting emails, I guarantee you people are not actually reading this. So subject lines are important. If when I'm prospecting, that same example I just gave, I would say organized, efficient training in my voicemail or in my subject line. If I use the Pfizer example, a healthier lifestyle or creating a healthier you, that should be my subject line. You want to think about what is that key message that you are trying to communicate about why you are reaching out. If Pfizer just passed that brand new, what's it called? Vaccine, I would be saying congratulations on the new vaccine and mentioning that vaccine name. That is very, very personalized. Now, then in your body, you're bridging the gap between their problems and how you can help them. And you always want a call to action, which normally your call to action is, "I actually want to talk to you." Like, when is a good time to talk? Invite you in, go to lunch if it's appropriate, or set up a meeting here. So here's just an example. Your name was given to me by Elizabeth Jones. She specifically said, "You may be interested in talking to me about your transition to more hybrid events. Our conference center has been leading the change with hybrid events for the last 5 or 6 years and have the technology, staff, and expertise to deliver your event successfully. I would like to discuss your current needs and future opportunities. Are you available on Thursday this week for a call?" So just very simple and to the point. Here's another example. After spending some time on LinkedIn yesterday, you noticed that your company, ABC Partners, recently merged with your largest competitor, XYZ Brands. On behalf of, I'm going to say myself, Master Connection Associates, congratulations. Now seems like a crucial and exciting time to bring these two teams together. I'm reaching out because I think our conference center would be the perfect host to some effective and synergistic team building events, training, sales kickoffs, and more. We would love the opportunity to help your new and improved organization get going quickly in the right direction, and our 25,000 square feet of dedicated meeting space, spacious guest rooms, and flexible food and beverage offering would do exactly that. I'd love to jump on a brief call this week to see how I can be of assistance. Let me know how Thursday sounds for you. I look forward to partnering with you in the future. Then, here's just another example. I read your recent LinkedIn post about the success of your annual meeting you just hosted in Chicago. I enjoyed looking at the pictures of the various functions throughout the week, and the final event on the beach looked like everyone was enjoying the end to a great week. It must have been like the beach in Chicago, though, right? Have you considered bringing your 2024 annual meeting or another future edition of the annual meeting to wherever it is you're located. I'd be pleased to connect with you to discuss the future of the plans and how we can meet your needs. So when you think about all of this, really the whole goal is to reach out in a way that gets you noticed. And if you notice, none of those examples are a copy and a paste. So when you think about that, you want to think about what are those value added attention getters? And really my whole goal is, those of you that don't like to prospect, is I like to say, don't let the no get you down. My goal is just get to people to say, maybe I'll talk to you. Like if I get a response, I'm just happy. Like, aren't you just happy if somebody responds? And if they say, no, I don't have any business, I'm like, excellent, I'm moving on. And so that's the attitude that you have to have. And my goal is just to get you to say, maybe I'll talk to you. But the follow-up is very critical. So remember, we talked about follow-up 6 to 7 times. And just remember that no right now doesn't mean no forever. So you do want to keep tracing. You do want to keep your fingers on the pulse. If you don't get a response within within a week or two, you want to keep following up and following up. And let's talk about follow-up, because follow-up is so important today. And this could be follow-up, I like to say, even to a proposal, even to an inbound lead. Because even if you look at an inbound lead, the percentage of sales that are actually made per contact is actually, to get the highest percentage, takes a lot of touch points. So if you look at percent of sales made per contact, 2% is made on the first contact, 3% on the second, 5% on the third, 10 on the fourth. 80% of sales are made on the 5th to the 12th contact. So this is why you do have to keep your fingers on the pulse and keep tracing to follow up, and follow up, which is very, very critical. Now, why is the follow-up so important? Is that when you're prospecting, and even with the lead that comes in, a lot of times the person's not actually ready to buy. So at any given time, only 3% of your market is actively buying, 56% are not necessarily ready, and 40% are poised to begin. I would say that even when a lead comes in, people aren't ready to buy immediately. They have an interest, they have a need, but even with prospecting, they're not necessarily ready, but they will be ready in the future. And so that's why you want to make sure that you are the first person that they're actually going to call. Now, getting past the gatekeeper, we know there's always challenges. I mean, you got to make friends with these individuals. I mentioned earlier, calling early or late is important. Calling human resources. I've had good success if it is even if it's a large company. Even if you go on to Facebook and you go to their Facebook account and you actually type in a question or a message and you say, who is the person that handles, or can you tell me the direct telephone number of or extension of? I've had good responses from those bots and from those individuals, because they do have to respond to get to meet the algorithms within like a minute or 5 minutes. So even sometimes to get somebody's name or get a telephone number, utilizing that resource can also be helpful. The double dial. I don't know if anybody's heard of the double dial. The double dial, I'm ashamed to admit, it has worked on me multiple times. And what the double dial is that when somebody calls you, they don't leave, and some people have mixed feelings about this, they don't leave a voice message. They just call you, you don't pick up, and they call you back right away. And what it does is you look at the telephone number, you don't know it, so you don't pick up. But then if they're calling you back, you go, oh my goodness, this is probably pretty important. So then you pick up. And I will tell you, it's worked on me. Now, if the person picks up, I just like to say that, oh, I was trying to leave a voice message and it cut me off, so I thought I'd call you right back. But the double dial, I do like to say it does work there. So really, in conclusion, when we think about tying this all together from a prospecting standpoint, you do start off with that research where you have a lot of fish in the bowl. After that research, you reach out. You're not going to talk to everybody to hopefully book one piece of business. And just remember what I said at the beginning. When you book one piece of business that didn't naturally come to you, that was truly from your own prospecting efforts, first of all, that just feels so good and so gratifying. But that is what a salesperson does from the tenacity standpoint. So when you think about creating an active prospecting list, I had mentioned this earlier. If you're not prospecting at all, don't be overwhelmed by all the different people that you can prospect. Just start with a very simple list and work that list the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and then move people on and off that list. So start off with those 10 existing clients, a list of 10 existing clients that you're working with that you want to continue to prospect and maintain the relationship with, 10 new clients that you want to steal from the competition, or 10 new referrals, or 10 companies that you know are in your market and that are producing that you're not getting. And then those lists of 10 old clients. So going back through our CRM, may still be, depending on where you were in 2021 or 2022, or you're going back to 2019 before that lockdown time. So I will tell you though, that if you don't actually block out time every single day to do this, you can just forget about it. So you want to schedule this on your calendar like it's a meeting. So this is that 5 minutes, that 30 minutes every single day. What I like to do, people make fun of me, but I like to do my research like at 5 o'clock. Like it's the end of the day, you're on LinkedIn, you're doing that research. I've drafted everything I want to say. So that way, right when I get up in the morning, depending on what time zone you're calling, it's all fresh and ready to go. And you're just emailing and calling and making those touch points and already have that kind of scripted out. So we do have a couple of minutes left. I will go ahead and close this. We have like 1 minute left really, but close this. But let me go ahead and ask you, what questions or challenges do we have, or anything else that we may go ahead and answer for you today? Anything at all? Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
I think personally I can, and I don't know if you've got any tips, go out a bit too much. So it's really kind of reining in and being a bit more strategic, I suppose, because I guess I've got quite a few sectors that I look after, so I can get a bit excited and go after a bit too much, and then it's trying to like stick to those 10 almost, like you're saying, and keep going with them, because I could go to so many.
Yes. And I think to that point, I mean, if you're not prospecting at all, 30 is a good start. But in reality, you actually might have double, maybe even triple that, depending on business levels. So we just recommend that if some of you said time is a challenge, we know there's a statistic out there that salespeople have too many tools and too many resources today that it overwhelms them. So it's better, I would say it's better if you take those 30 prospects and you reach out to them every other week for 3 months. I'd say that's great. Versus maybe I'm going to touch 100 people once a quarter or once a year. You're probably not going to get enough touch points to really make that person want to talk to you. So unless they already know you and they're familiar with you and you already have the relationship, with people that are brand new, it's really more about that proactive kind of piece. I think you got to reach out to them 6, 7, 8, 9 times, even to get them to talk to you. And I can think of examples even with myself where people will respond and say, reach out to me after summer, reach out to me now after the holidays. So you're just kind of keeping those traces up and not being too overwhelmed. However, if you have time and you are prospecting multiple sectors, I would recommend 30 in each of those sectors. So then you have like 90 that you're prospecting if it's 3 sectors there. What other questions may I answer for you today?
So how long in between connections do you think is necessary? Because I have to say, I feel significantly better after you say the statistics of 18 to 23 times of individuals that you don't know. But I mean, once a week, once every 2 weeks, how long in between?
I think there's no right or wrong to that. What I have found personal success with is if I reached out like today on Thursday, I might skip next week and then reach out Monday, Tuesday next week. Then maybe reach out even later than the following week. Maybe then I skip another week. So when you think about, I like to say maybe a 2-month span, if there's 8 weeks in there, just think like if I did 6 touch points or 5 touch points, I would consider that pretty good. What I would encourage you, that I think is when people get annoyed, is if I'm just sending the follow-up email, hi, I'm following up on my earlier email, and you're not coming up with something else to say, then I'm like, you didn't do like enough research. So it would be, I saw this LinkedIn post, or I saw this trend, or I saw this on your company's social media. just keep coming up with different compelling ideas. When people prospect me and they're like, did you get my email? I want to go, yeah. And it had nothing to do with me. So you didn't do your research. Because for me, I have so much on my LinkedIn profile that like is out there that I have competitors that prospect me. They're like, because my title, it's vice president of global training. People are going, you must have a hard time with your sales and leadership training. I go, you're a competitor of ours. So you can tell when people have done their homework and not. So I like to say it's the quality reach out over the quantity, but there needs to be some quantity there. So if you can't come up with something good to say, you don't just want to keep saying, I'm following up again. Now, following up on a proposal, I think is a little bit different because that would lead into I'm following up, but still even thinking about in those follow-ups, trying to come up with something different to say rather than just I'm following up again. So does that kind of answer your question? I know that indirectly a little bit. So, God. What else? Any other questions I may answer for you today? Perfect. Well, with that, I wish you all the best of luck in your prospecting and new business development efforts. Please send any, success stories, or as I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're always here for you. So if you go, oh my goodness, I don't know, like I didn't cover maybe right in the moment, you want more financial resources or how to prospect law firms or more social business, I'm happy to reconnect with you all. And I wish you all the best of luck. And any other closing comments, Kate, I may turn over to you.
No, just a big thanks, Mary. If anyone wants Mary's contact, reach out to me. I will send the recording as well to all of you latter part of this week, if not early next week. And just a reminder to look at the webinar schedule on the website. We do have our next webinar next Thursday with Mark Cooper looking at our research on meeting room of the future, which is a good one. I'd highly recommend you register if you haven't done so already. But thanks again, Mary, and thanks everyone for joining.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.